Welcome back to the Olive Grove podcast.
Okay.
Today we are diving deep into a story that is
Yeah.
pretty familiar to a lot of people. Daniel in the Lion's Den.
Absolutely.
It's Daniel chapter 6. We're looking at it through the complete Jewish Bible translation,
Okay.
and I think it's going to be a fascinating deep dive into the themes of pride and prayer.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that the chapter really kind of meticulously sets the stage by highlighting Daniel's rise and how that sparks envy in others. It doesn't just throw us into the action right away.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Yeah.
almost like the calm before the storm. The source material that we're looking at actually points out that Daniel was being considered to be put in charge of the entire kingdom
Wow.
by King Darius.
Right.
And you can practically feel the resentment that's brewing from these other officials.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's interesting, too, because their attempts to discredit him professionally completely fail.
yeah.
They can't find anything that he's done wrong. They actually scour his record, and they can't find a single instance of negligence or corruption.
So their issue isn't really about his competence, it's about his success.
Yeah, exactly.
They're blinded by this jealousy. And so they go after what they perceive as his weakness, which is his faith.
And they really kind of cunningly use the king's vanity to do that.
Yes.
They know that Darius is going to love this decree where
Yes.
nobody can pray to anyone but him
Yes.
for 30 days.
It's a trap.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're using the king's pride against him. And the source material actually goes as far as to draw a parallel to Lucifer's downfall
Wow.
and how pride can really corrupt even the most powerful individual.
Yeah, and in the midst of all of this, you have Daniel's response. And it's so striking. He doesn't cower.
He doesn't compromise.
He doesn't compromise. He continues to pray openly 3 times a day, facing Jerusalem.
It's such a quiet but powerful act of defiance because he understands that his ultimate allegiance is to God
Right.
and not an earthly king.
Yeah.
And what I find really interesting is that he's not even praying for protection.
Right.
The text specifically says he gives thanks.
Mm-hmm.
It shows incredible trust even when he's facing a death sentence.
That's a really important point. It reveals a depth of faith
Yeah.
that goes beyond just asking for favors.
Yeah.
His gratitude isn't contingent on his circumstances.
Right.
It's a constant, unwavering expression of his relationship with God.
I love that. And so because of all this, it puts Darius in a really, really difficult situation.
Yeah.
He seems to like Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
He recognizes his innocence,
Yeah.
but he's bound by his own decree.
Right?
The source material describes him pacing all night, unable to sleep, trying to find a way out of this situation.
And you can just really feel that helplessness when he says to Daniel,
Yeah.
"Your God, whom you are always serving, will save you."
Yeah.
It's almost like this sliver of hope.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging a power greater than his own decrees.
That's right.
And then, of course, the miracle happens.
Right.
Daniel comes out of the lion's den completely unharmed.
Completely unharmed.
Just a testament to the power of his faith in God's protection.
It's a really powerful image when you think about it, because you have this clash between
Yeah.
human authority and divine intervention.
Right.
Darius, despite all of his power,
Yeah.
all of his seals, he can't defy God's will.
It's interesting because the text actually even mentions that he sealed the den with his signet ring,
Wow.
which would have been like the ultimate symbol of his authority.
Yeah.
And yet God's power breaks through that.
It's like God's power just transcends all human limitations.
Absolutely.
And the really fascinating thing to me is how Darius is completely transformed by this.
Yeah.
He goes from this prideful ruler who's elevating himself
Right.
to someone who recognizes the one true God.
Yeah. He immediately issues a new decree acknowledging the power of Daniel's God and telling all of his subjects to revere him.
So it's a
A
total
reversal.
a 180 from the first decree.
Yeah.
And it just shows how witnessing a miracle like that can transform a person.
And it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what happened to those officials
Right. What about the guys who set this whole thing up?
who manipulated Darius and condemned Daniel?
Right.
Well, they
Yeah.
get what's coming to them. They're thrown into the lion's den
Wow.
along with their families,
Oh, no.
and they don't even make it to the bottom.
It's a sobering reminder
Yeah.
that there are consequences for those who try to harm the righteous.
Right.
It also really underscores the importance of integrity
Absolutely.
and faithfulness,
yeah.
even when it seems like it's going to cost you.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, Daniel's faith not only saved him,
Yeah.
but it actually led to his continued influence and success in the Babylonian court.
It's true. The source material actually points out that he prospers
Yeah.
throughout the reigns of Darius and even the subsequent ruler, Cyrus the Persian.
Wow.
So it really shows that standing by your principles can lead to blessings, even in a foreign and sometimes hostile environment.
The whole story just really highlights the enduring power of prayer.
Yeah, it wasn't just a personal act of devotion for Daniel.
Right.
It was a catalyst for change. It influenced the hearts and minds of everyone around him.
Including a king.
Including a king, exactly.
So it's a challenge to us, I think, to examine our own prayer lives.
Yeah. Are we just kind of going through the motions, presenting a list of requests?
Yeah. Are we truly seeking that connection with God,
Or-
expressing our gratitude, seeking his guidance?
That's a great question for all of us to think about.
And it also challenges us to think about how bold we are in our own faith. Are we willing to stand up for what we believe in, even when it's unpopular?
Yeah, even when it's dangerous.
Even when it's dangerous. Daniel didn't just pray in secret.
Yeah. The text really emphasizes that.
Yeah, he prayed openly facing Jerusalem 3 times a day.
Like he always had.
It's just amazing to me he didn't change his behavior at all.
He didn't try to appease the king?
He was just living authentically, trusting that God would see him through.
It's also interesting that the source mentions that Darius really tried to find a way to save Daniel. Like he really worked hard at it until sunset, trying to find some kind of loophole.
So it shows that despite his pride,
Yeah.
Darius wasn't completely heartless.
Right.
He recognized Daniel's innocence, and he really did seem to care for him.
But he was bound by his own decree.
Yeah, it's this tension between human law and divine intervention.
Yeah. And in the end, God's power transcends even the most unbreakable human constraints.
That's so powerful, and it encourages us to trust in God's timing and his ways, even when we don't fully understand them.
You know, before I move on, I do want to go back to
Yeah.
the detail about Daniel's prayers.
Okay.
He wasn't just, begging for his life.
Right.
The text specifically says he gave thanks.
Wow.
It's incredible when you think about the situation he was in.
It really is.
It shows a level of faith that goes beyond just asking for things. Daniel's gratitude wasn't dependent on his circumstances.
It was just constant.
It was a constant expression of his trust in God.
It reminds us that prayer is about so much more than just a list of requests.
It's about connecting with God, expressing our gratitude,
Yeah.
seeking his guidance.
And it reminds us that true faith isn't passive.
Yeah.
It requires action, even in the face of adversity.
Absolutely. And Daniel's story is a beautiful illustration of that.
Yeah.
He didn't just sit back and hope for the best.
He lived his faith.
He lived his faith knowing that God would be with him every step of the way.
Makes you think, right, about the challenges that we face and how we respond.
Yeah. Are we going to be like Daniel, standing firm in our faith when things get tough?
Yeah. Are we going to have that kind of courage? It's such a powerful story.
Absolutely.
Daniel in the lion's den.
So many layers of meaning.
Yeah.
It's about faith. It's about integrity. It's about the fact that God is always with us, even when things are really, really dark.
It's been an incredible journey exploring this chapter together.
It really has. I always love diving into these ancient stories
Yeah.
and seeing how much wisdom they contain.
Yeah.
For those of you listening, I encourage you to keep exploring the book of Daniel and all the other stories in the Bible.
And of course, subscribe to the Olive Grove podcast on YouTube for more deep dives.
Right. And be sure to visit the website that we used as a source for this episode. You'll find the link in the show notes.
Okay.
It's got a ton of really great resources to help you understand the Bible better.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Daniel chapter 6.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
May you find strength and inspiration in these amazing stories of faith.